Well, it's end of October. Last time I was out here shooting some footage, I was wearing a long sleeve shirt, pouring water over myself, pounding in the electrolytes. Man, it was hot. It was like 110 degrees. Right now we got a high of about 42 today. We just had a storm roll in last night, bringing some snow. And it's going to be a bone cold night tonight. This is the kind of night that can be life-threatening if you're lost out here without a lot of gear. You can see I'm wearing my down jacket. I've got my hat on. I've got with me my wool hat as well. I've got some insulated gloves, and it's going to be a chilly one. We got a wind also. Yesterday we had 44 mile an hour winds out here. So you can imagine the wind chill with that. This is the time of year when we read about cases in the paper where a hiker dies of exposure, otherwise known as hypothermia. And most cases of hypothermia happen in 50-degree weather, not just in the wintertime when it's cold out or when there's snow on the ground, but 50-degree weather. And that occurs mostly because people aren't dressed properly. So I got my down jacket on here. I've got a heavier coat in my truck as well. I've got a turtleneck here. Actually, I got my wool shirt here, then my turtleneck here, and then a wicking layer here. So this is not cotton. This is just a wicking layer called Cool Max. It keeps the moisture away from my body, transfers it to my outer layer so it can dry, so I'm not a clammy, cold bundle here. A lot of people who get hypothermia are wearing cotton, 100% cotton. Cotton blends are not bad. These are cotton nylon pants, these 511 pants I really like. Not an issue. So avoid the jeans, avoid the Levi's, avoid the 100% cotton sweatshirts, t-shirts, those kinds of things. Those things can kill you. That's where the saying cotton kills comes from. So be prepared. The desert can be very, very cold at night. It's going to be probably around 20-25 degrees tonight minus the wind. So if I'm lost out here without a lot of gear, it's going to be a nasty night that, you know, frankly, you might not survive if you've got injuries and dehydration and all these other things piled up on top. So your first shelter is right here. Dress properly in the colder weather. Bring your down jacket with you. This thing scrunches down to the size of a softball, so I can put it in my day pack. That doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's great life insurance. Now, down is lousy if it gets wet. So if I spend time out in the winter, I have another layer that goes over this. If I'm going to go up to Seattle or British Columbia where it's wet and that's an issue, I may not even bring this. I might just bring a whole bunch of fleece and wool layers, because once this gets wet, it will get compromised. But out here in the desert, down is an ideal fabric to have as long as you know its limitations. So dress properly, wear 4 to 5 layers, bring them with you, not cotton. Bring your down jacket, bring a raincoat or overcoat in case the weather rolls in, and then bring your hat and gloves. I've got some insulated gloves here, and you know, gloves are an essential part of a survival kit. You lose your hands, you're a goner. So have these with you. Some insulated gloves, mittens in the wintertime. If you look at photos of Inuit up in the Arctic regions, they actually have their mittens permanently attached with a lace to their parkas, so that when they go to take them off to start a fire or butcher an animal or use their knife, they're not going to be risking losing something critical like their hand protection. On my winter gear, I've got the same thing set up. But hat, wool gloves, couple layers, 4 to 5 layers here, down jacket, and avoid cotton. Be all set for weathering out the weather if it rolls in. This seems like the perfect place to talk about shelter for the cold weather. I'm in the high desert of northern Arizona around Flagstaff. Last night at my home it was 15 degrees minus the wind chill. Right now it's feeling like it's about 25 degrees, middle of the day here. So you've got to have shelter in the cold weather in the desert. You got to be prepared for snow, maybe even minus temperatures. I was out once in the Great Basin Desert. It was minus 25 out. We had an Arctic storm blow in from the north. So here in the high country, in the Painted Desert, Great Basin Desert, as further you go north, or if you're in other places like the Gobi Desert, Mongolia, coldest desert in the world, you've got to be prepared for the brutal cold. It means proper clothing, definitely lots of fire making materials on you, fire gear, and knowing how to make a decent shelter to get out of the wind and elements. Well, I'm sitting here in front of some wickiups we built, probably 6 months ago. It's much warmer then. We had a group of about 4 people here. We actually had another wickiup right there. So there's 2 here and then this one behind me. Makes for a cozy shelter. You get a nice enclosed environment here with a fire. Creates a little microclimate. In fact, you can be sitting in an enclosed type area like this with your shelters around, your lean-tos, your wickiups. And with the fire going, you might be sitting here in a t-shirt. It's going to feel like you're at the beach. Really cozy. And then you step outside, might be 25 degrees. So I really like the kinds of shelters that you use with a fire. You're going to need a fire anyway under survival conditions for boiling water, cooking food, working on crafts around the fire, just to talk to for company, and for maybe signaling at night. So many uses for fire. I like a shelter fire combination. And this is a classic example. This wickiup here is kind of a half teepee. I've got a tripod structure, 3 solid ridge poles lashed together with a jam knot, a couple jam knots. And then we've piled on dead brush and branches and finally pine needles. We usually put a couple feet of pine needles on the back, a couple feet on the inside here. So this bed would need to be replenished. And you build your fire, or you build a fire with a reflector if you're just one person. Great combination. However, let's say you don't have the means of making fire. For some reason you became separated from your gear. Hopefully that'll never happen. Or maybe it's too windy. You've got 50-mile-an-hour winds. It's too dangerous to have a fire. That's half of our spring season here. April and May, it's brutal with the wind. I don't dare have fire on our field courses then. So there are other kinds of shelters you can use, and I'm going to go over that. There's what I call a pine needle bed or a squirrel nest. It's probably my all-time favorite shelter here in the mountains of northern Arizona. And that brings up the other point. Deserts come in many shapes and sizes and have a lot of different looks to them. So most people think of cactus, they think of sand, of rock, they think of Phoenix or Tucson. But we have high desert as well. I've worked up in the Great Basin Desert guiding survival trips up there, where we get a couple feet of snow on the ground. We're snowshoeing. You need wool, you need down, you need a parka, you need mittens. And so deserts come in many shapes and sizes and many temperature extremes as well. Gobi Desert's coldest desert on the planet. Might get down to -50 below at night. So deserts can be bone chilling in addition to scorching. So here in the high desert of northern Arizona, we're at about 7,000 feet. We've got pine trees to work with and all these nice pine needles on the ground. So let's look at a particular type of shelter you can use if you're lost in this type of environment.